So it's the end of a beautiful day today, and I thought I'd give you a bit of a tour of the allotment. I've not done that since I first took it over. There's a few unusual plants that you might not have heard of before, and there's lots that you usually do, but I thought it'd be quite fun to do. So here at the bottom of the allotment, I've got a little patch of peas. These are, every time we come through, just devoured. Just a dwarf variety that I'm growing. They're growing nicely. My daughter absolutely devours them, and they are doing great. They are interplanted with Yacon there. Yacon is also known as the ground apple. It produces tubers, a bit like carrot, but a bit sweeter. I've heard some people can't taste the carrots at all. I think it depends on how well you grow them. The ones I grew last time, I don't think quite had enough nutrients. It didn't really develop into a really thick root. This used to be an artichoke patch, and they've just spread everywhere. This isn't a path, and they just grow absolutely everywhere. So I've got a big pile there, as you can see, just slowly building, and I just keep coming around, and as they come up, pulling them out, and I slowly go. I dug them out at the start, but they're either really deep or just I've missed some, but they're quite hard. I've tried growing some in the past, and they always just seem to die off, but this time round I've managed to inherit a patch of them, and I can't get rid of them. So that's what everyone always says, once they're there you can't get rid of them. So I'm just going to slowly keep pulling away, and I imagine it's going to slowly fade as we go, but it's unfortunately I don't like them. If I liked them, it would be great. They grow like weeds, but I tried lots of different things. I just couldn't quite get behind them, so I'm going to use it for space that I actually like things. Next to it we have some strawberries, the rhubarb, and my autumn fruiting raspberries. Up against the wall, just over here, this is a Tayberry, which I believe is a cross between a raspberry and a blackberry, and they're really good. One of my favourites actually. Interplaced, I've got flowers. We've got a cosmos, some irises, some chives, just things growing up. As we come on over, this is the kind of the bulk of what we have is strawberries. So as you can see, there's a massive strawberry plant. We've got the fennel in between. I let this come because it attracts ladybirds in, and the ladybirds love it, especially when it starts to flower. It also will attract hoverflies, so all just the natural predators. But one of the things you don't want to do with fennel is allow it to go to seed, because you just will be fighting it for years. So these are the strawberries. There's absolutely loads. I've got them all ripening up through. I'm unsure what to do. This variety here just doesn't taste the best. It's not quite sweet. This patch here that's a bit more sparse, I've just planted with new ones. They taste much better. So I'm thinking I might strip these out at the end of the year and then come back in and plant some fresh ones that taste a bit better. So that one tastes great, but it's a bit hit and miss. I'm not sure if it's the growing environment. Is it just got not enough nutrients, or is there not enough sunlight getting to the strawberry because it's crowding out? Or if it's just luck, some plants are a bit nicer than others. They were here when I got here, so I don't know if, you know, they've self-seeded and the one that's grown is just not been very nice. Yeah, so I'm gonna try and work that out over the rest of the season. One of the other things with these strawberries is these are all different types and they fruit at different times. So this one all comes in and they grow really hard at the start of the season, but then they kind of fade off. I did get a few starting to give me a second flower towards the end of the last year, but the weather was really bad, so I don't know how well that went. Tucked away down here, this here is actually a blueberry that's starting to come back up. It was in a pot and I found out my soil here is acidic, so I planted it and it's actually looking really happy, much happier than it was in the pot. So you can see it's kind of gone back down, it all died. This is this dead wood, so it's looking really happy. So we'll see how that goes. As we come on over, we start coming into some dahlias, a little bit of spinach. One's gone to seed They're actually really quite beautiful. These are the little pods that start to form. I'm pretty sure there's a seed. I've never actually let them grow on this far. I normally pull them out if they go to seed, but I thought it'd be quite fun just to see what happens. So yeah, we've got a couple of dahlias. This here is a mulberry, which is starting to come through. I've had mulberries in the past. I had really big issues getting them to grow. They keep dying off. Like you can see this one over here. This one's dead. I'm hoping it's going to come back, but there's nothing on it at the moment. I tend to find they might, in the next kind of 6 weeks or so, start putting growth back on. I couldn't work out what was happening. It kept happening. It's happened. I've had 3 or 4 of them, and I've never managed to get them to grow. And this year, I've sussed it. It's the slugs. The slugs are coming in and just munching all the young shoots, which kills it right back. So I'm hoping this one will bounce back. We'll have to see. Here we have some sweet potato just here, starting to grow. This is sweet corn. It's all taken a bit of a battering by the slugs this year, so we'll have to see how that goes. But I hope it's going to bounce back. I've had to replant a few. Got a courgette, some potatoes, and that there's a red currant. I actually see some of the last currants. I actually really like the red currants. I never thought I would, but when you grow them yourself, they've just got a little bit of sweetness, and you put them in the sun, it's absolutely beautiful. Here we have a thornless variety of blackcurrant. It's not quite ready, they're coming up. This one looks like it'll be ready in the next day or two. So yeah, these are going, you can see a few of them were being stolen by the birds. So hopefully that's not going to be too bad. The other plant that you might not have come across, that's hiding just in here, you can never quite find it. Where's he gone? There he is. The strawberries. This here is a Goumi Berry. Quite popular over in the States apparently. Relative of the autumn olive. I've never actually tried one. It's just growing, but this again got really hit by the slugs. So you have this dead wood. You can see it growing, so I'm hoping it's going to bounce back. And then finally, just tucked over here in the corner, this one here starting to bounce back again. You can see it starting to grow. This one died right back to the ground with the wet winter. This is a Chilean guava, so I'm hoping it's going to put on some growth. I'm trying to keep the other plants back from it so it doesn't shade it out. But yeah, again, I've not had a lot of luck with these. They don't seem to like the wet. So we'll see how it goes. This is another Yacon. Yacons are quite strange. I planted this months ago and it just hasn't grown, and maybe the last week it's just starting to put on growth, so this will actually now shoot up. So these lovely velvety leaves. I've got 2 varieties. I've got a red one and just a normal, I think it's just like a white, but we'll see how that goes. And then a couple of sunflowers just there poking up. Those are the biggest sunflowers I managed to grow. I found each year the slugs have really hit them, but I've managed to get the slugs under control by coming down every evening and just doing a little slug check and just killing anything that I find. Well, quite a good tip is if you do kill them and leave them there, the next night the slugs will try and come and eat them. So the other slugs will try to eat them, and you just create a little pile and it just self-feeds itself. So that's quite a useful tip and lesson I've learned this year for getting the slugs. These here are summer raspberries. Again, I did hit these back quite hard last year, so I'm not surprised there's not huge amounts of fruit on them. But the fruit that is there is again quite hit and miss. And there's the fruit. Again, raspberries are beautiful. That one's got a bit of mould on, or bird poo maybe. Got a bit of mould, so they've lost a few there. But the TJ is quite good. Last year they didn't. We had like a really wet summer, and it just wasn't good. And we had a lot of heat to begin with the strawberries, so it's killed off, like this made the strawberries taste awful. Anyway, this plant here, this is always laden. Look here, it's just absolutely loads. And these are Jostaberries. So the Jostaberry is a cross between a gooseberry and a blackberry. No, black currant. A gooseberry and a black currant. They're great. Nothing seems to affect them. The birds don't seem to eat them. The taste isn't like knock your socks off, but I'll come have a handful every couple of days. I think it'd be quite nice in a jam. I don't tend to eat jam, so I don't tend to make it, but I think it would be really good in it. The bushes are absolutely massive. It's quite interesting. There's actually a lesson to learn here from the person who was here previous, because I'll show you. Just here is an actual blackcurrant. You can see how it's much smaller. It's being swamped by the Jostaberry. So we've got the little blackcurrants coming through. These here are much smaller, and they've got a really sharp taste to them. They've still got a sweetness, but they've got like a real deepness to them as well. So I don't quite like them as much, but again, a lovely thing to have on the allotment. This is my other blueberry. I've not planted this one in the ground because I wanted to see how the other one went first, and this is a much happier plant. It's got a really good set of fruit on it, and I didn't want to disrupt it, so I might put it in at the end of the year, considering this is a pink lemonade one. So I find the birds don't pester these quite as much, and they taste a lot sweeter than the other strawberries. One of the things I've done, which I don't know what's happening, but something's digging around here. I don't know if it's a bird, but I've inoculated this wine cap mushrooms, and I got my first harvest. Unfortunately, well, I say it was harvest, unfortunately it had kind of been munched by the slugs before I managed to get myself a proper harvest out of it. You can see the slugs got a strawberry there. So hopefully, if I keep topping that up, I've got a new load of wood chip coming in, so I'm going to start kind of putting a bit more around. Down where I have the rhubarb, there's a little patch, and just under here as well, you can see something's been digging around in here. But this is all, again, got all the mycelium, it kind of clings it together. So hopefully, if I keep an eye on it in autumn, I should get a really good crop of wine caps. And you know, they self spore around the garden as well, so as long as I keep giving them habitat, hopefully they should grow. I need to do a bit more with this lane in between the two trellises. There were raspberries over here in this bit. I'll get into what's there in a minute, but there was no need to have so many raspberries. I like them, but not that much, so I'm using it as a trellis for other things. But before we get there, I let the kids self-sow onions, so they're all over the place, and they've not done particularly well, but it really wasn't about that. It was just about the kids having some fun. We've got a courgette here, and over here is literally in between. I had a bit of a gap, so I planted a chayote. I think that's how you call them. It's been a bit slow. Apparently they're meant to be rampant, so I'm expecting this to take off. So I'm trying to train it up. I think once it gets going, it'll be a really big plant, and we create little courgettes essentially that look like that. You can see it's got new growth coming out of it all the time, so maybe this one will shoot up a bit more vigorously. And I've never actually eaten one. I've only ever bought them to grow, so it just looked fun. Apparently they can get really big, so hopefully it won't shade everything out, but apparently it's a bit like a courgette, so we'll see how that comes on. Up against the wall here, this is another Tayberry that's kind of self-seeded or self-sown. I don't know if it's come down from just here, but I'm gonna have to dig that out and take it elsewhere. And this beautiful plant's got this lovely red stem, especially in this light, and there's these fantastic flowers that, again, maybe that one might be a bit better there. So these flowers here, this is where the fruit's going to come. This is a Japanese wine berry, again a really lovely taste and a bit of an unusual one. So I'm going to be spreading that out here. There's a gap just over there. We've got the blackberry going up, but I had actually planted a kiwi, but that also got eaten. So I'm just growing on a couple more at home and just getting them a bit bigger and a bit stronger to fill that space. And it's a hardy kiwi, not a normal kiwi, because they get massive, and you can kind of control the hardy kiwis a bit better as far as I'm aware. And then this bit here, I've got a bit of everything. I've kind of gone a bit heavy with it. I've fertilised this bit, so hopefully there'll be lots of nutrients for it. But we've got a tomato here, we've got a couple of cucumbers, I've got a grapevine that I've brought up this way that I took from a cutting. There, these, that's a bean, but these here, this is called a air potato or a Chinese yam. So it is going to grow big. It's going to grow a really big root. They say you should normally grow them in pots to try and get the root because it's really hard to dig down. I'm not too bothered. It's more just for a bit of fun. If I don't get all the root up, I don't get all the root up. But I think it needs to take a year or two to kind of reach full maturity. And while they do, they create little bulbils of air potatoes that can be eaten like a potato. Got a nice big sunflower here, and then behind it, another bean. So hopefully we'll get a nice bit of French beans growing. This bit here, another sweet potato. I've just put them all around the place. I've got a bunch more things that need to come out and another few sweet potatoes to come. So we'll just see how they come on. But I'd like to stagger things because I've learnt my lesson in the past. If you put everything in all at once, like I did with this section here, which I'm going to show you in just a second, what happens is if they all die, then you don't have any backup. So this is where my old compost heap used to be. It was in one of the composters that I just have there. So got a little potato. I don't think I planted that. I think that was there. I might be wrong. I might the kids might have done it. I tend to give them things and they tend to just run around and pop them in. We've got some, I can't remember if this is kale or cauliflower or a Brussels sprout. My instinct, from what I remember, is it's a Brussels sprout. So these are going to get pretty big, but they've got a little while to go. And this is my giant pumpkin. It looked really unhappy for ages, but it's just starting to get a lot greener. I don't know if you can tell from there the difference in the colour. But these, when it first started, aren't going. We started to get some flowers forming. I haven't seen my first fruit form yet. Oh, there it is. That first fruit forming. I'm gonna most probably take that one off because we want to get the plant a bit bigger first before we let the fruit start to form. But we'll see. I need to research into that. And it's going to grow, hopefully, into this space under the tree. And I'll let it go up through the tree as well. And we'll try and get a really big pumpkin for Halloween. The girls love it. These here are potatoes, but uniquely grown from seed. So each one will be different. Potatoes grown from seed. The plant's different. They tend to be a little less compact. They might branch out. Some of the potatoes themselves might actually branch further under the ground. So they might be out here instead of right close. So they aren't quite as reliable, but it's fun. You don't know what you're going to get. It's kind of a bit like a big surprise because I've got lots of different ones. See, that one there is stood up really tall. Looks almost like a tomato. And then these other ones are much more compact. This one's got a really big leaf. This one here has got a little bit of purple to it. This one here is a little bit of kind of redness in it. And yeah, they all just look slightly different. So I don't really know what I'm going to get and how it'll go, but that'd be exciting. One of my experiments this year is going to be growing some more cold intolerant crops. So these watermelons, they're 3 watermelons. That one's the biggest. I put that one in first and it's getting really big right now. So there's 2 here. And that one's getting really big, so I'm just questioning when I take this off or if I dig a little trench just underneath the edge and let it go and sprawl out from there to keep the main root bulk happy. I'll post, if you look back, I did a video on making a hotbed, and this was a hotbed, so the ground temperature now's calmed off, but in here it's up to 30 degrees, so we're in the evening. Outside temperature is measurably, what, 18 right now? We've got some, this is lemongrass and a ginger. So I've got a couple more things. I'm going to put one of the sweet potatoes in here as well. I dug a really big nutrient hotbed, so there should be plenty of nutrients for everything, and it seems all really happy. This here is a peach that I've grown from seed myself, so hopefully this will grow and produce some peaches for me. It's not easy in the UK to be able to do that. They don't like the wet, they don't like the cold, and if there's a late frost, you're not going to get any fruit. But I thought, why not give it a go, bit of fun, and see what happens. Here, a little tomato. I put these next to my bin because obviously in the soil their roots will go up and take nutrients, and I want them to grow well and quickly, so hopefully that will help them. These are another Tayberry, and they're absolutely laden. Like, just come down every day and just get more and more, because you can see there's just loads all the way along. It's taken over this whole space. Hard to keep on top of, really. I think I need to do a better job pruning. I did put it back pretty hard, but I don't think I did it quite hard enough. So this year I think is going to be put right back. This was an experiment. I did the hotbed here. I was going to do another one. I dug it down and planted a bunch of things in it, so courgettes and beans, and there you can see I had some just normal corn, and then I come down and either a badger or a fox just dug it up. So problem what I did is I put all my sweet corn in, not my sweet corn, all my normal corn. There's two varieties, there's a red popcorn and a glass gem corn. I don't know which one's which. I put them all in because I thought, oh, I'll be fine. It'd been there for about a week before I planted in on top of it, and no one had dug anything up. And then what happened the next night, dug up. So there's a few there, so hopefully we'll get a bit of a crop, but it's a lesson learned. If you're going to do scraps, either dig them really deep, and this was a good 12 plus inches, either dig them really deep or don't do it, because they're going to come for you and they're going to dig up all your crops. And then finally what we have here is a gooseberry. It's actually a red variety. You can see this one's starting to go a little bit red. I'm pretty sure it's a red variety. Ow. Anyway, so yeah, so here we go. You look down here, there's they are. So they're starting to turn red, so they'll start to ripen up now. They actually look like I'm going to get quite a good crop. It was much bigger than this, but over the winter, this whole bit here, this was right out up here. It's a big old plant, and this whole half of the bush died. I'm not really sure what's caused it. I don't know how it's happened, but the main stem died. So I'm pleased to see that we're getting a few of these come through. So I like gooseberries. Again, a really lovely thing to have. So yeah, maybe give them another couple of days. That one's got a bit of little split. So you can see it's starting to red. It's got a bit of split. I don't know if that's because it's had too much water or if there's just been a bit of damage. But yeah, they're still normally okay to eat if there's nothing inside it. So that's what they look inside. And these varieties are really sweet. They're really good, actually. I don't know how else to describe it. One of my favourite things to do with this is actually make ice cream. I only recently just found gooseberry ice cream, gooseberry and elderflower ice cream. It's down in the Newton, Somerset, and they do a really good one there. So yeah, really good. So yeah, that's my tour. I'm sure I've forgotten a few things. There's always bits growing while I'm putting it in. I'm a bit haphazard, as you can tell. I tend to like just to spread things. I think there's some carrots just over here in this little bit. I've done a row. I had done a bunch more just in this section down here, but the slugs got them. I tried to protect them, but everything else wasn't getting pested. I came down, I couldn't see any slugs, but something was eating them. They just were growing up. I could see them each day and they just disappeared. So yeah, lots of little bits and pieces. There's courgettes put here and there. Oh, there's one last thing. That was it. Last two things. I've got some beetroots, just multi-sown in little clumps. I've just put them around. I'm not the biggest fan of beetroots, but I quite like pulling them up and the kids like them, so I just thought a little bit of space. And then this here is a cranberry, and actually it's just starting to flower. It's just starting to flower just there. And that's good because it wasn't looking very healthy. It's gone all red, and I'm not sure if that's I moved it from my other allotment up to here, and I don't know if it's because I've moved it or if it's just an unhappy plant. I've tried to make sure it's watered, and it's got a whole bunch of mulch, and you can see it's got all the stuff in it, and it's nice and wet in there. So I just don't know if it's the pH is gone. Some of it looks happy. I'm not really sure. But if anyone has any ideas of what might be causing all that problem, please do let me know. These are 3 dahlias that I've grown from seed as well. So these will grow up and create their own flowers. This one's starting to flower, which is nice. So we'll have to see. I'm excited to see how they turn out and what they look like. Because again, I can't even remember where I got them from. I just tend to get them. I see a little flower bud from the allotment or something that's seeded. I thought, oh, you know, I can take that. So yeah. So that was my tour. I'm sure I missed a few things, but that's generally what I'm growing. Mostly fruit. I don't get to come down here super regularly, and I find where you have what's the word, annuals. I find where you have annuals, they take a bit more maintenance. There's got to keep on top of it a little bit more, where the fruit bushes you can kind of put down to keep on top of the weeding, and they just keep growing, so it's a bit easier. The only thing I'm considering also doing, where I mentioned my big strawberry patches, putting a big row of asparagus in, because I love asparagus. I've not had a lot of luck, but I've grown a bunch from seed this year, so hopefully we'll get some. There's a few other plants that I'd like to put in. I've put down at my other allotment some pineapple guava for Joa. So I would like to have some here. Yeah, I don't know if I've got quite enough space, because they can get quite big and bushy, a bit like the Jostaberry at the back just there. But I thought maybe we could try and train it against the wall. Yeah, there's a few other things I've got growing. I've got a few tiger nuts, another thing. I'm a bit apprehensive to put them in the ground, because when I try to put them in pots to actually find them all, it's quite hard. I feel if I put them in the ground, I'm never going to find them. So I don't know if anyone's had the experience growing tiger nuts in the ground. So yeah, there's lots of other bits. A few other plants I want to get. There's American pawpaw. Again, I had it, but it got sun scorched. I didn't give it enough. I had it in a cold frame, and it got a bit hot in there, and I just forgot about it in the back, and by the time I remembered it was there, it died, so it was my fault really. But yeah, I've got some bits and pieces hopefully going to come up. I've planted some sugar snap peas, the next succession of normal peas, and just a few flowers. So yeah, that's my allotment at the moment. There's a few of the unusual bits. If you've got any thoughts and you want to share, I'd be happy on what I could be doing better. But yeah, have a lovely evening. This here is one of my banana pups that is come from my bigger dwarf Cavendish. This is going to go over to the allotment as well, where the watermelons are. I'm going to hopefully be able to overwinter it, but I'm just waiting for it to develop the roots fully. So hopefully be able to do it this year in the next month or so, but I might have to wait a little. This is the kiwi that I mentioned. So it's coming on. I was waiting for it to fill up the pot and get a really strong root system. So hopefully be able to put this out again in the next month or so. In terms of other things that I've got growing on here, we've got what is this? This is a myrtle, a Chilean myrtle. It's just starting to come into flower. I've not seen the fruit yet, but it comes out in these beautiful white scented flowers. They smell a bit like cinnamon. And then here I have a pomegranate. So these two again, we'll see. These both go into really big trees, so might have to put them somewhere else. These here are the tiger nut. They just look like grass. So I'm going to see if I plant these out or not. Like I said, I'm a bit unsure of whether that would be a good thing to do. And the last couple of things in my cold frame, this is a custard apple. The other one at the back didn't do very well. It's starting to come back to life a bit, but it got hit as I brought it back outside after winter. I think I brought it out too quickly. And we've got a lemon here. Did have one there that's been eaten. A couple of other bits and pieces growing, but these are the main two that again I might look to put outside.